All the second stage tanks now pressurized. Astronauts report it feels good. T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal. 11, 10, 9. Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Like a furry torpedo to the jugular. This is Honey Badger Radio. Radio with bite.
Hello and welcome to HBR Talk 388. Men's humanity terrifies feminists. And of course, in the title, I say feminist, but that's because, I either got to say women or feminists. I can't say women because then YouTube will shaft us. But yeah, men's humanity seems to scare the shit out of women. Totally is the reason why women don't succeed in politics, because you have to be full of shit to succeed in politics. Unless you have the entire country behind you because you're tearing down the entire political establishment. But in any case, that's our show tonight. That's what we're talking about tonight. Men's humanity terrifies women. And women will act like they've been terrorized by it, even though it's just in existence. Like you haven't done anything to them. You just are there by just being. You're just the scariest thing on the planet, especially if you have your own thoughts and feelings. Like that's just, a bridge too far, guys. How dare you? I am your host, Hannah Wallen, here with Nonsense Annihilator Lauren Brooks and the personification of perceptivity, Mike Stevenson.
Hello.
We have the Doge in charge, Brian Martinez, making sure everything works in the background.
Woo-hoo.
And tonight we've got Richard here with us to examine another female journo's take on the manosphere.
Hello.
And men's humanity. But before we get into that, we got to do what we got to do. As always, Honey Badger Radio dishes out a smorgasbord of thought-provoking discussions, and as recent and long past experiences have both demonstrated, the provoked thoughts are fighting back. They've made it clear that for people like us, relying on third-party payment platforms like Patreon to fund our work is treading on thin ice, or building our house in the path of a rapidly growing wildfire. In light of this, we strongly encourage our supporters to switch at least their support for us to feedthebadger.com, the most stable way to help us out. And if you want to tip us directly instead of relying on any social media platforms tip jar, the link for that is feedthebadger.com/justthetip. As always, the same risk applies to our social media platforms, which is why you should further provoke the thought police by tracking our thought-provoking discussions on honeybadgerbrigade.com, where you can find your way to all of our content as well as a link to feedthebadger.com in the drop-down menu at the top of the page. And with that, we can get into what we're getting into. Oddly enough, I still haven't been suspended on any social media platform, actually. That's the most bizarre thing, because you would think. But in any case, here we go. So this is our article. Again, this is The Guardian. Really enough said. It's establishment media. But and our writer tonight, Lucy Morgan. So we have a woman doing a review of a documentarian or a documentary who decided to look into the men's, I don't know, it doesn't resemble the men's rights movement, but it definitely is a thing. So this is not a really long article, but it's going to be like the previous article. There's a little to read and a lot to say. Starting with the way that she describes this guy. Mortified documentarian James Blake meets young men who have drifted toward misogynist influencers. So that sort of gives you the rundown on her opinion of the manosphere, what her angle is from the beginning, right? Automatically, if um your subject matter on the internet is men's issues, that in and of itself makes you a misogynist. If you care about men, that's taken away from women, guys. How dare you? How dare you? Uh, she finds them lonely, heartbreaking, and on semen retention journeys to control their sex drives.
Wait, what?
I'm not quite sure what that is either.
Is that just keeping your dick in your pants? Because y'all have been telling us to do that for some time.
Yeah, this is something that really blows my mind too. Um, Women tell men all the time sex should not be important to them, even though men evolved for sex to be important to them, right? But then when men choose to be celibate, women get mad, especially if men choose to be celibate for something other than my religion tells me I have to do this, right? If it's I'm doing this for me, if I think this is good for me, so this is what I'm going to do, and it's without regard to your interests, that is like the biggest offense against women you can engage in. How dare you have self-interest, and how
E-
dare you deny
Even
women sex after we've told you not to pursue them sexually?
even doing it for your religion is not a good enough excuse.
Yeah,
As and when you get into an argument with certain journalists, I'm thinking of Piers Morgan and Nick Fuentes. Like,
that's
even if you're doing it because you're Catholic, they go, "Oh, so you're a virgin, so you've never touched a woman, so you obviously don't give a shit about women and you hate them."
yep. Or you don't know anything about women because you've never had sex with one, right? Like you've had no other experiences with women. Only the experience of sex matters, and everything you know should be based on that and not any other thing that you've done with women. It's
So,
amazing because if I said that in the context of men's rights, they would call me a misogynist, but they will absolutely treat people that way.
but Piers Morgan is a misogynist as well, and Myron Gaines and Nick Ferrant. Well, Myron Gaines and Piers Morgan because they see women as sex objects,
Isn't that
because you
always the
can't have any
way?
other experience than have sex with women. So you can't be like on friendly terms with them or be around them without like them being objects. So
Yeah.
Well,
Is it,
we could get back into the debate about whether misogyny exists, but of all people, Piers Morgan seems to think that men should stand up when women enter the room, which suggests that he doesn't see them as sex objects. He sees them as royalty, as the judges presiding over everyone's life.
I guess
y'all,
he
if a
does this
bunch of
for
people
influencing
stand
wife.
up, if a bunch of people stand up when I enter the room, I'm prone to assuming that they were up to something. Like that's weird behavior. I'm sorry. I just I'm not royalty, so if somebody does that, like maybe they were talking about me, which go ahead. There's not really much to say. I'm kind of a boring person,
I tend
but
to assume it's because I'm emitting some kind of smell, which I often do.
there we go. Well, now, if I have baked something, I can guarantee you I would be emitting a smell and people would stand up when I enter the room because they want to go get whatever it was. But that's different. But yeah, I this idea of you're damned if you do, you damned if you don't. It seems to play into every or be connected with everything that feminists and women in general really think about men. It's not just sex drives. If men um, explain things to women, feminists call it mansplaining and pretend that it is condescending, and women already knew that. But then there are all these articles online about how men aren't mentoring women in the workplace anymore, which you kind of told them to stop. So what are they supposed to do? And then the other aspect of that is they're not allowed to be alone with you. All right. They can't be alone with you because you might make a false allegation. And they can't explain anything to you because you might call them a misogynist for telling you something that you feel like you already knew that. You're not listening half the time and you screw things up. Then you say they didn't tell you, but really you were just accusing them of mansplaining.
You can't do that in Britain no more. It'll get you in jail to tell a woman to explain stuff to a woman if you're a part of the Green Party. That is anyway. So
yeah, that's quite a it's quite a handicap for women.
Even
Since,
if you're just correcting a woman, like if a woman says 2 + 2 = 5, and you say, I believe it's 2 + 2 = 4. Even though that's a very short sentence, that
Right.
counts as correcting a woman. And if the Green Party gets in, it will be a crime, or one of those non-crime hate incidents, otherwise known as a crime, an arrestable offense.
crime.
You know.
That's a crime. Yeah, if you can get arrested for it, it's a crime. I don't care what they say, right? What if they introduce you under the wrong name? This is George. This is my friend George. No, ma'am. My name is Brad, and I don't know you. That gets you arrested?
Yep.
Jeez. So, guys, if a woman doesn't remember your name correctly, you have to change it now in the UK. That's insane. So,
But at the same time, if you as a man dead name anyone, guess what happens? Straight to jail right away. No trial, no jury, no nothing.
I dead name my trans friend all the time. He gets him mad.
It gets him mad.
Yeah, because I don't really believe in that stuff. So
well,
it's very difficult. Yeah.
Yeah, it does make it difficult. But I mean, you have your beliefs, and other people have their beliefs. Like I am a Christian who hangs out with atheists who regularly refer to my religion as me having a pretend friend. So, like, I can get mad, but if I get mad, like, what good does it do? It's not going to change what they believe. I could quit hanging out with them, but I like other things about them, so I'm not going to do that.
But my friend could have me arrested if I dead name him. So
yeah, that's not right.
That's the crazy thing about it. The trans people have more power than I do, and I'm disabled and black.
Yeah, that isn't right. Nobody should be able to have you arrested for not believing in something that has not been proved. Right? And part of what makes faith is that you're believing in something that has not been proved. And I think a lot of people would agree that what ideology exists among like the gender mafia now has taken the form of a cultish religion. Like, it's not the same thing as back in the 1980s and the 1970s, when strides were being made in gay rights and in the rights of individuals to just be different, whether you were trans, whether you were a nerd, whether you were a gamer, a geek. Everybody was learning to just get along with each other. It's something that Gen X did because we had the kind of environment that fostered that. Right? We didn't have a bunch of namby-pamby wusses hovering over us going, you can't talk like that to each other. You can't say that. You can't punch each other in the arm. Noogies are violent. And we just picked on each other for fun. And to the degree that in a neighborhood like mine, when I was growing up, we would box for fun. Or for those that didn't really know the rules of boxing, we just would beat the shit out of each other for fun. We had this one game in my neighborhood where we took 1-inch dowel rods and covered them in enough towels that it was kind of like what it would be like if you covered them with like those pool sticks that you use to float, and then just beat the hell out of each other in like a sword fight with it. And that was a game. That was a fun game for us. And it's to this day I have fond memories of doing that and willow tree whip fights where you see who can tolerate the biggest welts and who can dodge the best and who can keep their willow branch intact, because when you whip it around people like that, it breaks. But stuff like that, we didn't worry about what color you were, or whether one person in the group was a genius and the next person in the group had disabilities, had intellectual disabilities. We didn't we didn't know that some of us were autistic. um it didn't really matter, like, if you did things a little differently, as long as you found a way to do them that people weren't going to get hurt too much, like more than anybody else would do. That was it. We just we just played really rough together, and
Yeah,
uh, and we had a good time, and we didn't care if somebody was gender non-conforming or none of that. It didn't matter. And now today, it's just the opposite. You have to be different. You have to be um, what might have been considered a weirdo back in the 60s or 50s. You have to be out of the ordinary, and the idea that what is normal, it must be wrong, has become pervasive in society. And it's created an inability of people to even gently get along with each other. Everything has 1,000 rules and no way to actually do it.
yeah. Men still do that to this day. Like I think even Gen Zs still do. They don't necessarily fight each other physically, and unless they're doing it in an actual competitive environment, like martial arts or sports or whatever. But yeah, men still take the piss out of each other, like
Yeah.
up and down the generations. They're always, as
But
we've
it's just under.
as we've often observed, men will take the piss out of each other and not mean it. Women will be really nice to each other and not mean it. And no matter what feminism does, this is never going to change, because feminism is constantly encouraging men. Encouraging is the wrong word, but coercing men into fighting each other, into criticizing each other. But we do it in a sarcastic, playful way, and and they can never stop us doing that, because we're always aware that we're doing it in this playful, competitive way. We're not actually trying to destroy each other. We're trying to just keep each other on our toes. And
Yeah.
paradoxically, this will never change, no matter how deep women feminists get their claws into us, because the competition that they're encouraging in us, we can always enact in this productive way. And conversely, they're always telling women to always call each other tens, like always insist that they're all in this together in the sisterhood, but they will continue to not mean it. They will
Yeah.
continue to say, "Oh yeah, you should get your hair cut short. Oh, you're so beautiful when you fill your face with fucking nose rings. Keep doing it, love." Secretly knowing that there's sabotaging each other, and yeah, it's going to keep having the same effect over and over again of uniting men and isolating women.
So the birth rate in China is like 0.1.
Yeah, it's and of course China kind of did that to itself. Um the one child policy kind of destroyed the idea of having a family in China. And you also have the fact that the social credit system that we're now being told doesn't exist in China is bankrupting so many people and making so many people homeless, that what who in their right mind would deliberately have a child in that environment. um
and and Korea is 0.2 as well.
yep, yep. And we're I think, still ahead of that, but all over the world.
America is 1.5.
Yeah.
I think France is below 0 at this point. Do I have that right?
Yeah, so it's like so it's 0.0. Same
Yeah.
with Spain and Italy as well.
Oh,
And
Spain is so fucked. Are we gonna? There's so
And
much to say about Spain and the shit.
and Spain can't pay their footballers and their sports stars
yeah,
because they're bankrupt.
Spain is in dire straits, and feminism did it. Like, they started out several years ago, actually during the Gamergate controversy, because I remember Cucurio saying in chats about what was going on, and he sent me links to some of the stories in Spain about what Spanish feminists were doing, and they've essentially turned Spain into a backward matriarchy where nothing can get done.
And now they're not even hiding what I hope I can call the Great Replacement without getting this video taken down and our whole channel cancelled. But yeah, there was this rant that this female politician in Spain did, where they're like, yes, we absolutely do want to replace Spaniards because they're all racists and fascists. We want to replace them with immigrants.
Yeah, yeah, and you can sort of tell it's not just happening in Spain. I mean, it's happening all over Europe, and it's happening in the United States. Although we're reversing it right now, and the temper
Well, you're
tantrum
trying
over the
to.
reversal. Yeah, we've got a pretty good start. Like, the people that really need to go are the ones that, after committing the crime of coming here illegally, came here and then committed other crimes, particularly violent crimes. Interestingly, if amnesty were to happen, a lot of people from South America would ultimately end up voting conservative. People don't realize this, but the particularly the Catholic Latino population, but the Latino population in general, the people that come here from from South America or from south of the United States, even in North America, they're not looking to expand what progressives have done. All of the gender politics and all of the everybody can do whatever they want and you're not allowed to criticize it unless it's normal kind of. They don't really get into that. Right? This is same thing with the Cuban population that came to America, when we had the 1 foot on the beach policy. I don't think that's what it was called, but essentially, if you got here, you got to stay as long as you survived the trip, which was really bad because it encouraged people to take huge risks with their lives. But in any case, they are not communist, and they don't fall for the communist bullshit, and they warn other people about the communist bullshit. So
Well,
I don't think that the left is going to get the results they wanted from that replacement unless they are able to use the numbers, rather than having those people vote, using those numbers to hide fake votes. That's the only way that they could actually benefit from this. And the other thing that's happening in the United States that is going to thwart that is it's going to become a lot harder to hide fake votes. We're going with voter ID. The fact that you have to prove you are who you say you are and you are eligible to vote in order to actually vote in the election. And that with that happening, it will become completely useless to the left to bring in any illegal immigrants. And I think things will change dramatically. They'll either have to stop, or they'll want it because they still want the slave trade that happens across the southern border, and it's a pretty big slave trade, and it's mostly there is a sex slave trade, but it's mostly labor, and it's mostly male, and they get treated very badly. Besides the fact that they're being enslaved, they're they're being kept in horrible conditions. They're being terrorized by the people who are trading them, and they're being lied to. They're being injured. They're being beaten. They're being everything that has always happened to slaves is happening to them, and people
Although
don't even realize it. That's the only other reason for the left to really want illegal immigration.
do bear in mind there's essentially two kinds of people who leave these South American countries. It's people who leave of their own accord because they hate the communism they're escaping, and there are some criminals who are simply shunted out of the country in the direction of America because they're criminals. These are very often just leftists who are absolutely on board with communism, but because they're such repeat violent criminals, Venezuela in particular, I'm thinking of, they just go, no, fuck off out of the country and go in the direction of America, where you can destroy them because they are our enemies and we hate them and we want to destroy them. A large proportion of the Venezuelan diaspora in the United States is such people for whom, frankly, Venezuela wasn't communist enough, and it was fortunate for them that they were shunted off in the direction of the United States, so they can take over large apartment complexes.
Yeah.
And frankly, I don't really care, Margaret.
Right. They can do all kinds of things. But the bottom line is when you look at how it's actually going to affect the election versus what the liberals think, I hate the term liberal for this because liberalism is can't we all just get along, and what's going on now is how dare you all just get along. But they're not getting what they want out of them. They're not getting the votes they want. They're not getting the results they want. We're even changing things so that the census only counts citizens as citizens. So they're not even going to be able to use the numbers to fake population size in a particular area, because your representatives should only be representing citizens, not people from other countries who aren't supposed to be here. So it's going to be interesting to see how things pan out. I have a feeling that if things improve the way that I think they're going to improve in the U.S., our birth rate will go up. We'll probably also see changes to the gender dynamics, and we'll probably see a huge rejection of feminism in the future, just because it doesn't have any value. It doesn't accomplish anything for anybody. It harms everybody, and it just happens to harm men deliberately, whereas it's harming women accidentally, and it harms men significantly more than it does women, and it fools women into thinking it's helping them for a little while here and there, until you realize that it's actually making you helpless and stupid. All right, like that's not beneficial. Making you helpless and stupid. If that was beneficial, everybody would just be drunk all the time, like completely drunk off their ass so they can't move. But it doesn't work that way. So there you go. But in the article here, where we've just taken off on the semen retention journeys and we talked for half an hour, here she goes. And the way that this woman words things, I'm just gonna, well, you'll see. Just as you can accurately measure the quality of a documentary about pornography by the number of examples of its subject that it does not show, so too can you judge a program about, quote, incel culture, the manosphere, toxic masculinity, by the amount of time it does not devote to the noxious leaders of the subculture. Like, talk about poisoning the waters. This is a woman writing for other women, and she just, without any logic or reason or any other like connecting factor, she just equated the men's rights movement and porn. Like all of a sudden now they're the same thing, and you should hate them for the same reasons. um, that's kind of genius, I
Porn
guess.
is banned. Porn is banned in the UK anyway, so you can't view porn in the UK anymore.
Really? That's kind of dumb.
I mean, it's difficult to get hold of it. Yes.
Unless you have a VPN.
Yeah. Yeah.
And two hard drives worth of it.
That's insane. Like how do thoughts in the UK make their money? Are they unable to upload to OnlyFans now?
OnlyFans doesn't count as porn. It's empowering to women.
It's not. Yeah. Technically, OnlyFans is a paid Instagram.
I see.
Technically.
I see. That's hilarious. Well, and then she didn't stop there with the comparison either. But she poisoning the water here. Besides the porn thing, she basically decided that these three things are all the same thing: incel culture, the manosphere, and toxic masculinity. Right? Which
feminism that made up the term.
I suppose these are all three terms that feminists made up. Right? Incel culture.
Well, the lady called it infill. It wasn't called incel till later on.
Yeah. But having a culture, having a culture, the idea of incels having a particular culture, which, I mean, every subgroup of people does, you could say, like gamer culture, crochet culture, whatever. If you bond over something.
Sewing culture.
Yeah, sewing culture.
You would.
I suppose people who play marbles have a culture.
You would think the female equivalent of incel culture would be. I mean, it's often called femcel culture. I mean, it's generally not called anything, because when you look to, is there a culture of women who can't get laid, and so they go on this crazy, hateful tirade against men? Well, yeah, that's called feminism.
Yeah.
But it's kind of funny how incel culture is being equivocated with pornography of women who can get all the sex in the world and get paid millions of fucking dollars for it, and somehow that's the equivalent. Like, yes, there are women on OnlyFans who make an insane amount of money from thirsty men, and somehow that's the equivalent of men who can't even get any sex or even a kiss on the cheek from a woman, let alone any money at all, let alone millions of fucking dollars.
Yeah.
The mind boggles a little bit.
It does. It's kind of a, you have to wonder what is going through their heads, because it's not thought and logic and reason. And it used to be that we would recognize, some people were kind of loners and would stay away from other people. There's always been a subset of humanity that pursues solace and solitude to a degree that is alien to most other people. And then there's also always been a subset among like all of humanity of people who just can't connect with other people, in particular the opposite sex, but they're straight, or maybe they make peace with not being straight, but they don't seek relationships. And there's always been, men who live their whole lives single and women who live their whole lives single, and just depending on whether they were that way voluntarily or that way against their will, you had different ways of describing them, right? Like a woman who didn't necessarily want to be single all of her life, but would be considered an old maid, right? And then similarly, a guy who chose to be single all of his life was a confirmed bachelor or a hermit, right? But a guy who didn't choose to be single all of his life, like he was just invisible. People just completely wrote him off out of their sight. They didn't even consider him. If they had to call him something, they'd call him a bum, even if he had a place to live. And so it's always been more of a derogatory thing to say about men than to say about women that this person can't find a partner even though they want to. There's always been a bit of sympathy for women in that situation, but total disdain for men in that situation. Um, but yeah. So what she's doing here is she's linking the choice among incel men, because there aren't really women who women who are celibate that don't want to be celibate but are anyway, are simply choosing to shoot above their level. Like they don't want to settle for men that are at their level. That's what it is. But among men who are incels, she thinks that there's not really any difference between that and what feminists deem toxic masculinity, which is pretty much any characteristic that you would consider immature. Any adult that behaves that way, you'd consider them to be childish. That's toxic masculinity. That's what feminists consider toxic masculinity. It's not masculinity. It is toxic. Both sexes engage in it, but they refer to it as masculinity in order to demonize men and limit how much we notice when women do that shit too. And in between, they sandwich the manosphere, which to feminists, the manosphere essentially means pickup artists and men going their own way, like two polar opposites of the spectrum. Men who don't want anything to do with them, and men they don't necessarily want anything to do with who are interested in them and might be manipulating them. Right. Meredith G, by the way, gave us $5 and said, HBR Talk 388. My father grew up in a household of boys, but he got a lesson on women because his parents worked in female-dominated industry. And my grandfather regularly talked about the games women play. Men learn about women for all the females in their life, not just their sexual partners. Yeah, that's true. That is true. And unfortunately, I think today, more than ever, aside from the women who actually love a guy, and maybe even among the women who actually love him, he probably sees a lot of nasty shit from the women around him. Probably learns that women aren't very good people most of the time, because they don't have to be. You don't have to be a very good person as a woman to be respected, to be loved, to be treated with deference, and to have social power. You don't have to be a good person to do any of those things. In fact, you can become insanely popular as an outright horrible person and make a living on your popularity as an outright horrible person. If you ever want to know, look up the things that one of the few really good women and I'll say that with a caveat because she did still get divorced and everything. But as women in Hollywood go, Lucille Ball was pretty decent. But she didn't have very nice things to say about the way that the other women in Hollywood during her time treated people. And she was asked about a lot of the women that she worked with. And, this is a woman with massive talent. And she was also, she knew how to surround herself with people who were going to bolster her career. And she had her fair share of toxicity too. She was quite forthright, upfront about that. But she worked with like some of the divas in Hollywood, like Betty Davis and Dorothy. I can't think of her name. Judy Garland, and and talked about differences in professionalism and how toxic women could be and everything, right? And it was I saw an interview with her one time. I wish I knew a location where I could look it up, and because I haven't been able to find it on YouTube. But she dished on some of the divas that she worked with and how they treated the people around them, and it was quite enlightening, to say the least. Women can be absolutely horrible people and become millionaires by capitalizing on people liking them. It's quite interesting. But this woman goes on and she continues to link this, these two subjects together, porn and incels. Porn documentary makers often seem to use their commission to indulge their own murky fascinations, or at the very least fill the screen with naked women as an easier way to hook viewers than constructing decent program. Similarly, stuffing any program with footage of the poster boys' diatribes, generally about pussies, female metonymically, males metaphorically, power and the need for men to wield one over the other is a titillating opportunity and an easy shortcut to engagement. So what she's basically saying here is your documentary is bad if you show the people that it's about talking about the beliefs that you're documenting and being themselves on camera. If you're trying to make a documentary about men, you should talk about them and not show them. Like that's quite a view there. Wouldn't that be a diatribe, not a documentary?
Yes.
Like it just blows my mind. Like, oh, don't show people what these people are really like. Just tell them your opinions. Feminists like to control the frame more than they like to admit. Belfast broadcaster James Blake admirably avoids this trap in his hour-long film Men of the Manosphere. So in other words, he made a movie about like the manosphere. The term manosphere initially, I don't know if feminists coined it or if men within the spectrum of subcultures of men's issues discussion coined it, but the term describes the entire spectrum from men who are bonding together and banding together to discuss men's issues and how to approach social and legal change, to pickup artists who are trying to figure out ways to interact with women where the outcome is actual social interaction and but possibly sexual interaction, to men going their own way who are trying to avoid too much interaction with women because they don't want to get treated badly, falsely accused. Um, they don't trust women, and they have every reason in the world because of the crap that women have pulled to you have incels who would like to have partners, but for whatever reason
In
can't.
most incels have had the same experience as the MGTOW guys, but not
Yeah.
just not in a relationship with women, because they've been abused by women for most of their lives as well. So if I
Yeah.
if I interact with you like or directly,
No, go right ahead. Because
so because
it,
incels sorry
it's the
because
reason I have
incels
you
have
on
had the
here.
same incels have had the same experience as MGTOWs, but just not the relationship side of it. But because they've been abused by women their entire lives, they want a relationship, but they don't want a relationship because they've been abused. They kind of worry about women as well. So yeah, they pretty much have had the same experiences as MGTOWs.
That's fair. At this point, the more I interact with women on the internet who are feminist or gynocentric, I should say, or gynocentric or even feminist gynocentrism, because they're all gynocentrists. But the more I interact with that, the more I realize men have a lot to be concerned about. Men have a lot to be afraid of, and it's not just things like false accusations. Women make really stupid decisions, and men are the ones who have to clean up the mess. They're the ones who handle the fallout. And anytime a woman faces any fallout from her own decision, um, she acts like it's a disproving factor of men's benevolence and protectiveness and provision and care if they're unable to protect her to the nth degree so that she experiences no consequences no matter how stupid she acts. And when I say this, I'm not exaggerating, right? Women blame men for abortion. And I've had arguments with women trying to blame men for abortion, pointing out the fact that from the get-go, right? Approach is a woman's territory. Any man who tries to approach is treading on thin ice the moment he makes the decision before he actually even approaches. If he looks like he might approach and she doesn't want to be approached, that's
That's
enough.
um that's why incels say that dating is a humiliation ritual, and approaching is a
Yep.
humiliation ritual as well.
Yeah, because women will humiliate. They'll be mean. Um, Women brag about the mean ways that they've turned guys down. Right? It's not even shameful to them. They treat it as street cred among other women. And I've been in the room where women have said horrible things they did to turn a guy down. And like there's the classic throwing a drink in his face, um, but there's worse. And so just approach is a woman's territory, and everything after that, the woman has full decision making in a consensual circumstance. Anything where the reason that she conceives a child isn't rape, one way or another, which is most interactions are not rape. Um, she can say no at any time, and it is socially expected that he'll back off, and it is legally mandated that he back off. And if she chooses to enforce that legal mandate, he has no defense. If he's chosen to not back off, even if nothing he did was harmful. If a guy says hello to a woman in the line at a grocery store and she says, "Leave me alone," if he so much as says, "Okay," he hasn't left her alone, and she can, this guy's harassing me over here. I asked him to stop talking to me, and he said something else. Right? That's it's pretty strong power right there. So if she gets all the way from being near a guy to conceiving a child, she has already decided to accept his approach. She has already decided to accept his companionship. She has already decided to accept being alone with him, hopefully. Because otherwise, you're in a public situation. But she has already decided to have sex with him, and she has already decided whether or not to use birth control, make his use of birth control part of her consent, to what kind of birth control she's going to use, how much, because women can double and even triple up, and still have different types of birth control being used in addition to the condom. You could have up to 4 different types of birth control going at once, and make it virtually impossible for conception to happen if you want. So by the time conception happens, she has made a whole series of choices. So it's not something that you can blame men for, right? Just because men are part of those choices, just because men are making their own choices and they're taking risks, doesn't absolve women of those choices to who to have sex with and so on. And then, of course, when she decides to walk into an abortion clinic, men don't have any control over that. A guy cannot stop her legally if she is if she's decided that this is what she's going to do. She's an adult and she can make her own decisions. Then he doesn't have any legal standing to say, "Oh no, you may not have an abortion." He doesn't have any way to stop her. He doesn't have any way to prevent, what she's doing. By the time, he doesn't even have a right to know. By the time it's over and done with, she's completely self-empowered to do this. And even in states where you can't get the abortion in that state, and it's against the law to go to another state, women find ways, right, to do this. During the pre-Roe versus Wade era, the year before Roe versus Wade, there were over 250,000 legal abortions in the United States, and there was an organization that bragged about doing 60,000 illegal abortions on top of that. So
yeah, the manosphere is really just broadly means anyone who rejects this humiliation ritual we were talking about just now, and this humiliation ritual has always existed for as long as women have had this ability to humiliate men and indeed boys from the earliest possible age. And in a way, it kind of means the same thing as patriarchy. Throughout most of human history, men have been able to reject this humiliation ritual because they just had this this natural self-interest and this natural social interest to avoid this. I'm going to go ahead and call it toxic femininity.
That's pretty toxic.
It's only in the last couple of centuries that that this female humiliation ritual has become so powerful and so enshrouding and so even more toxic that what they used to call patriarchy has shrunk from this all-pervading resistance to something that can be described as a sphere, because there
a
are
little bubble inside of the rest of the culture. Yeah,
particularly in Western civilization, but everywhere, even in Asian and African civilizations, like it's getting more and more scarce to find any men or indeed women who reject this humiliation ritual. And yeah, it's not just men. The manosphere refers to women who reject this female humiliation ritual against men. It's just that feminists don't talk about the women who do it, because that might make it seem like women are the enemy, and that gets feminists in a bit of a pretzeled tailspin. Wait, how I thought it was just men who are the enemy. How are we supposed to? How do we countenance the idea of women who don't want to humiliate men? We can't. We can't do that.
Yeah, yeah. And so the thing is, when you look at how women make stupid decisions, including the humiliation ritual, because obviously, if you're a toxic bitch to everybody that asks you out, men stop pursuing you, especially if you get a reputation for that, right? They won't approach you if they're going to be, shot down in a humiliating way. That's if they know for a fact that's what you're going to do. Why would they come near you, right? But when I talk to women about just any of these issues, but in particular the stupidity of blaming men for abortion when women are in the driver's seat, they're driving from the passenger seat of every social interaction with men. You have to please her, or she's going to bite your head off like a praying mantis and kill you. That's essentially the social outcome of every social interaction between men and women, and often the legal outcome as well. Um, they don't just get mad; they get deeply offended, and it's not just feminists. It's not just women on the left. I had an argument with a right wing woman um, not too long ago that she went so far as to, as a medical professional, state a medical diagnosis that she wasn't qualified to make. That claimed that I have borderline personality disorder because I pointed out that what women are demanding when they demand that men control abortion, knowing that women will go get illegal abortions if it's just made illegal, is some sort of guardianship in which men watch everything women do and supervise everything women do and control everything women do in order to keep them from killing their babies. What they're saying is that women are so toxic, so murderous, so careless of others' humanity, so selfish, and so childish that they need men to babysit them everywhere, all the time, every way, every place, regardless of their interests. But if men did that, women would get mad.
Yeah, if men did that, they would put them in fucking burqas or some shit, wouldn't they?
No, if men did that, women would get mad. When women had coverture to achieve that, it wasn't even that much guardianship. It wasn't even on the level of you have to have a chaperone everywhere you go. Women found that in the West too restrictive. They complained and they filed lawsuits and did other legal maneuvering until they eliminated every law in the spectrum of laws or matrix of laws that created the web of coverture. And so you can't satisfy them, right? But it's not borderline personality disorder to point out that if you are saying that men are obligated to control behavior that women have demonstrated they will engage in illegally, that you're saying that men are obligated to babysit women legally. That's not borderline personality disorder. That's just acknowledging Like you take away all the other options, this is what's left. Right? Men can't and they can't forcibly stop women from aborting without using force. You can't forcibly do something without using force. It doesn't work.
It's borderline personality disorder sufferers accusing other people of what they do. It's like a narcissist's favorite thing to do is to accuse other people of narcissism. It's projection. It's one of the main symptoms of cluster B in general, really.
It is. But it's also women's first recourse, right? Like you must be crazy if you want to hold women accountable for their own choices instead of blaming men. And you must be really crazy if you follow the logic of blaming men to its most rational endpoint. You've eliminated, obviously, laws don't stop women from having abortions. So passing laws is not an option, right? Teaching girls to be better than that growing up isn't an option because it doesn't change what they do. But controlling them by making sure that they don't go anywhere without a man to decide what they can and can't do, that would stop them. That's the only thing that would actually stop women from choosing to have abortions. It wouldn't stop all abortions because there are still some men who are perfectly okay with abortion, but it would stop women from having them, from choosing to have them. I mean, after that, all abortions would be the man's choice. By the way, we did get a super chat from Senior Sticks 3011, who gave us $2 and said the one-child policy kind of worked. Yeah, it did reduce the growth of the population, didn't it? And it might actually be reducing the population. Then he says, when is HBR Con? That I would love to see. I suppose we could say it was in 2019. It was a men's issues conference that we hosted. But it would be awesome to get to do another one. I say this when most of the work that I did was at the conference, the preparatory work, the organization and all that was not me. But we'll see. That's the kind of question you got to pose in a stream where Allison is on the stream, so that she has to answer that question because she's going to be the one that does all that background work. She'd be doing the majority of the organizing and stuff like that. Unless you want to hold it in Dayton, Ohio, then you might be able to rope me into a lot of legwork because I live here. But let's get on with this bog that she calls an article, right? So again, remember, this woman has said to do a documentary about a group of people. Don't show them, only talk about them, right? And she's pleased that this documentarian has avoided giving too much airtime to the actual subject he's covering. It has snippets of the loudest, vilest voices doing their loudest, vilest thing, telling young, disaffected, vulnerable men what they want to hear, that the problems in their lives are the fault of women, feminism, woke society, beta men, and anyone who is not full of ambition, independent spirit, and willing to subscribe to the influencer's latest course on how to be a successful man. Tell me you're talking about Andrew Tate without telling me you're talking about Andrew Tate. Which, that's how they do describe him.
Incels tend to mock those courses a lot, so we don't prescribe those courses, so we tend to mock them like a lot. So, and incels don't really like Andrew Tate, and Andrew Tate don't really like incels. So
that's fitting too, because he has an image of being exactly the polar opposite, right? He's almost, I wouldn't say pickup artist, but more of like a pimp. And he has that pimp
But
image that he's trying to project.
but every photo he's with around women, he seems like every photo that he's with around women, he seems like he doesn't want to be there. It seems like he's gay, allegedly.
Allegedly, yeah.
Yeah.
It's always possible. But I mean, it might have something to do with the company that he keeps. It just depends. I mean, not that professionally sexy women can not be personable, but a lot of them do look down on men.
And they can be very annoying at sometimes. So
yeah, yep. It just depends on how good they are at the social end of their job and what kind of people they really are. Like we have had individuals here that seem to do better than that most of the time. They have their limits. Everybody always has their limits. But
if they find that you don't really like women, they will not talk to you again.
But yeah, well, because
most women
might not be exploitable.
Because most women talk bad about men and they're still with men. But if a man talks bad about women, no woman will go near him.
Right. You can't manipulate a guy that sees through your shit. Right. So then why would you waste your time? That's why. I've run into that too. Believe it or not, I've had women get pissed off at me for that when I point out, like if you're going to act like this, why would a guy want to be around you? The next thing I know, I'm blocked. So I've even been blocked by other anti-feminist women for that, pointing out that guys don't have any more obligation to put up with that bullshit than women do.
I was blocked, and she gave me back my money.
Oh gosh! Wow.
for the month I was subscribed to her Patreon, she gave me my money back, and she blocked me on everything.
Wow. Yeah, you touched a nerve. But yeah, so they're clearly only the article here. The author is clearly only concerned with one influencer. Maybe also other pickup artist influencers. But she really isn't talking about. She's definitely not talking about Dr. Warren Farrell here.
But the thing is, the left had Warren Farrell and Jordan Peterson, but they rejected those and they came up with Andrew Tate.
Yep. They had plenty of opportunities to listen, right? And even if they wouldn't listen when mild mannered men, like those two, gently told them, these problems exist and they're not going to go away. And if you let them fester, they're going to get ugly. And it's important to both sexes to do something about this before that happens, right? That was a really gentle, non-judgmental message. Neither one of them has ever had terrible things to say about women. I've said significantly worse things about women than either of those men has ever said. And yet they are demonized, both of them, on levels that I couldn't ever reach. Not that I necessarily want to. I want people to think about these issues from a standpoint of, how can we create a social and legal environment in the world where men and women can thrive together. But feminists don't like that.
Kentucky.
Yeah, Kentucky?
Yeah, 50-50.
Yep.
The divorce rates have dropped.
Yep, Kentucky has been a really good example. And, Kentucky is actually a neat... I'm from Ohio, so we do have this social rivalry with Kentucky, just like we do with Michigan. But the fact is, disclaimer aside, family values have always been a major thing in Kentucky. You value your neighbors, and when I say family values, I'm not talking about something some preacher said on the radio, but I'm talking about you need each other because you're in circumstances where you don't have necessarily anybody else. And then the more you get into the rural areas of Kentucky, the more people rely on each other, the more people take care of each other, and the more extended family becomes important in the lives of each family member. And the more your neighbors, your neighbors, and you watch out for each other. If like the recent weather problems that have happened, just like in the Carolinas, just like in in the South, when the Cajun Navy began responding to hurricane victims in other states. This is the way that rural America and Southern America, when you combine those two factors, and you get a very strong unity among the local people. And I mean, it's not absent in the North. It's not absent in the West. There's just a special flavor of it in the rural parts of the southern states where, if something bad happens, you are out checking on your neighbors. You are out making sure as many people are okay as possible and doing something about it if they're not, because nobody else will. And because of that, when you had the legislation looking at how can we prevent divorce, how can we bolster family unity, and they made changes to the divorce laws to stop incentivizing divorce for women. That significantly reduced the divorce rate, and I think it would everywhere else too. But yeah, you had
But women are fighting to not have Kentucky happen in all 49 states.
right. They don't want the other 49 states to go that way. I, on the other hand, would like to
No,
see that change take place throughout the entire country because everybody that I know that it has gone through a divorce, whether they were the person who was at fault or not, has been harmed by it. People who are at fault are shooting themselves in the foot, and then they're also taking out their partner. So there's no good ever comes out of divorce. But even in abusive situations, the escape might be a silver lining, but it comes with a whole lot of shit to deal with. But yeah, they had those two guys, and then they had, when you think about it, they had a bunch of organizations, right? A Voice for Men, National Coalition for Men. They had Justice for Men and Boys in the
Fa-
UK, Fathers for Justice,
justice.
right?
And the guys that dressed up as superheroes as well.
Yeah. There was before Reddit, right? There was Men's Web. There were plenty of different. There was the 10 Men blog. There were plenty of different places to find, a voiceformen.com, information about what men are going through and how it's affecting them and how it's changing them, and how it's changing their relationship with women, and what's happening to families, and what the high rates of male suicide are coming from. They had all that information. Like, I don't feel sorry for them at all if they're mad about Andrew Tate. Tate is standing on the shoulders of intellectual giants and he's still just some guy on the internet.
Also, you had Patrice O'Neill
Mhm.
on Opie and Anthony speaking on it, and he was just trying to figure it out back in the day.
Back in
He
the
said
day. Yeah.
so back in the early 2000s, he had a show called Black Phillip. You can find all the episodes on YouTube. There are like 11 of them or 12, and he's saying the same stuff that people are saying. Like, he's saying the same stuff that people are regurgitating today.
Yeah, yeah. This stuff it's been talked about for a long time. See who I'm looking at here. This is Nay N Imna 9677 pointed out Ernest Belfort Bax and Esther Villar were early MRAs. Yeah, Ernest Belfort Bax. I've read quite a bit of his stuff, and that was from the early 20th century. Both wrote books, both fiery anti-feminists, and yeah, these problems existed back then. They've existed prior to then. If you ever
And
read the play The Taming of the Shrew, you'll see what I mean.
And what's Jeffries as well?
Yep. So this is they had Tom Likas. Yep.
Oh yeah.
Like, oh well, Tommy Sotomayor. I also talked about this, and in particular talked about the racial aspect of it. You had
He said black people of the canaries in the coal mine.
Of the family court. Yeah.
Oh,
And
my
a
my
lot of
phone's
different
listening.
things.
My phone's listening to me because on my YouTube page it came up the manosphere on Wikipedia for some reason.
Ah, that's interesting. That is excellent.
Can I read the definition?
Sure.
The manosphere is a varied collection of websites, blogs, and online forums promoting masculinity, misogyny, and opposition of feminism. Communities within the manosphere include men's rights, incels, that's me, men going their own way, pickup artists, and fathers' rights groups.
Farmers' rights group. Oh, fathers' rights groups. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
It's okay.
Why the specifics of each group's beliefs sometimes conflict, they're generally united in the belief that society is biased against men due to the influence of feminism and the feminists promote misandry.
I mean, where's the lie?
Well, the first thing is,
if misogyny means opposition to feminism, then I can confirm misogyny exists.
There you go.
And that came up on my YouTube main page for some reason.
That's weird. For starters, the one thing they get wrong is that it's feminism that has caused the bias against men in society. That's been around for long before feminism. Gynocentrism is about 6 centuries old and predates feminism by 4 centuries. In the West, at least.
And Joss Steely thinks he's doing a victory lap for some reason.
Who is doing a victory lap?
Joss Steely thinks Pell, she's doing a victory lap.
Oh, okay.
Pell Dave, because of the Schweifer thing.
I see. That's one I haven't kept up with, especially in the last couple weeks. So, what I do in my regular job, I work in healthcare, and when the weather hit, like in Southern Ohio, the weather we've had in Southern Ohio is Northern Ohio weather, and the local area wasn't really very well prepared for it, even though there was a lot of warning that it was going to happen. And I ended up at one point, I got stuck at work for 36 hours straight. So I had a 36-hour work shift. So for the last couple of weeks, I've just been kind of treading water. I've been kind of out of it. I've been on a couple of times, but I haven't followed any trends or any news information that's been going on. And I don't really.
Oh,
I was gonna say I don't really know the people either. Other than Pearl, I don't really know a lot of the people involved in those discussions.
it's kind of damaged the white ring sphere. So
Ah, okay.
the white ring people are not having a good time. So first it was Erica, then it's this Sarah person, and then Eliza Shriver.
So are those the women promoting marriage?
Yeah, basically.
That's
And it all
okay.
kind of, yeah.
The put a
Yeah.
ring on it
And
crowd.
Sarah, basically, yeah.
Yeah. This is another one. All right. And I've had women really get mad at me for asking this question. But men can have they can give they can have kids and have the same outcome with their children, whether they get married or not, in an environment where the wife is eventually going to leave and take the children anyway. Right? They're basically the end game is you don't get to raise your kids if you're a man. So they can just fuck around and not worry about it. They're gonna be paying child support anyway because she's gonna get pregnant and she's gonna keep the kid. She's gonna choose to be a single custodial mom, and then he's gonna be in for child support no matter what. So, in that environment where a guy knows that it's Russian roulette, he's every time he is with a woman, he's shooting himself, and one of those times, a bullet's eventually going to come out. What benefit does he get from getting married? What protection does marriage offer him? Because I haven't identified one. Like the closest I can get is that in some states, his ability to be shafted by the family court system after pursuing custody is increased if he's married and decreased if he's not married because he might not get the opportunity to initiate that battle in the first place. But I don't see, I've tried seeing a benefit. I just don't. There doesn't seem to be anything in signing that little piece of paper and having the minister say, "My blessings upon your marriage," that protects a man from any consequence that he might experience if he just never marries the mother of his children.
But then they
But
all complain that you haven't put a ring on it yet, so you can't win.
yeah, well, and they'll be like, "So you're
And
not
plus, you
married?"
got
Well, yeah, I got married, but I meant it. We've
and
been
plus you
married
got common law
for
marriage as well.
yeah, like we stayed married our whole lives. We we raised our kids together. We've got a grandkid. We aren't. I'm not leaving. That'd be bullshit. And but I get that from every. Whoa, what? So you don't believe in marriage? So you're not married? No, I don't believe that marriage. That the government protects marriage enough that there's any reason for a man to marry you. A man shouldn't expect the government to protect him from being divorced, being shafted, being run over by the court system because he signed that little piece of paper.
Marriage
It
should
doesn't
be
give him anything.
Marriage should be a covenant under whatsoever you both believe in. Now, this worked long before the government existed because it was a covenant before God, and this worked when everyone believed in a God, is some kind of God. It worked much better under God than it ever did before the government, because because it's something you both believe in and you both agree as to what it is. But it's tough to agree with what the government is because it keeps changing its rules all the fucking time. Like marriage as an institution is a good idea as long as you can find some kind of higher power that you both believe in and are willing to trust, and dare I say, serve. And yeah, if we can find something that men and women can both believe in and both trust and both serve, then by all means we should get married, and we can still do that. We can still have a ceremony in which we entrust our future to whatever higher power we both believe in. But it's not the government, and it's never going to be the government because it's a crock of shit and a hive of scum and villainy. Like this is what so many of these fucking fake tradcons keep falling for. They just think, well, just get married, just sign your life and your relationship together over to the government, and everything's just going to work out. Because if you don't do that, then something, that's all of it's ever been. No, you can get married. I mean, Lauren and I like to consider ourselves as married. I'll happily call her my wife, and she'll happily call me her husband. But we don't need the government to fucking endorse our relationship. And if that means technically we're not wives and husbands, then fuck the technicality. I mean, if that's the only way that I can migrate to the USA, then okay, fine. But that's still a shite state of affairs. Like,
yep.
Men and women should
Uncle
be.
Sam worms his way into an invitation into your marriage, in the most heinous of ways, right? Well, you can't have unity in your family if you don't invite in this needy relative.
Yeah, I mean, imagine if the thing you both believe in is each other. Like, you don't need the government, and maybe you don't even need God. Imagine if you could just believe in each other as life partners, and you could just have a ceremony where you go, yeah, we love each other. Let's be husband and wife, and let's devote ourselves to each other. It'll be helpful if we had the family looking over us, to give us that extra incentive. And yeah, that is what marriage has always been. It's hard to say how far back in history marriage goes. It certainly predates the government.
Oh yeah.
I think it even predates any Abrahamic God, and possibly predates any pagan god or any other kind of god. Like I'm sure people marked the occasion as and when they got together as couples, regardless of the children that they were having. I imagine it often revolved around the children they were having. But this you can do all of this without some kind of authority that has the ability to ruin your life at a moment's notice. That sounds like something that shouldn't be a part of marriage. Something that can ruin your life at a moment's notice. It's only in modern times that it's only the man's life it can ruin, and that's what we're all objecting to, folks. Men really want to get married, quote unquote married, whatever that means. They just want to be able to do it without having their fucking lives ruined. Is that why is that so much to ask?
They feared the force mostly.
Yes.
Yeah. If women cannot be used to control men through pair bonding, through marriage, then the government has no use for it. That's why. That's the reason that the government wants basically a feminist outlook on marriage. That, you know, the woman can, the man, when he makes his vows, you know, he's promising all kinds of things, but the woman, when she makes her vows, it's just a placeholder. And it's sad because it again, this is one of those feminist things that the people that are harmed the most by it are men, but it doesn't do anybody any good. It's not good for women to never fully commit to their marriage. It's just worse for the man they're marrying than it is for the woman who isn't committing. Um, but this lady goes on, lady goes on. Let's see. If you have spotted any inconsistencies here, you are probably a blue-pilled cuck and not the target market. So please move along. Right? She's again. She has just described all of the various aspects of the men's rights. You know, the men's right issues discussion. All of the various elements of men's issues, as if only pickup artistry and the creation of porn and the existence of men who are involuntarily celibate matters. I mean, she doesn't really care about what happens to fathers and their children, or men who are falsely accused, or any of those other things that occur. She only cares that she can say nasty things about men she might consider manipulative. But she says Blake's main focus is on the recipients of these proliferating messages, the recruited rather than the recruiters. Although we shall see the line between these two is blurry almost by design. Blake himself, who is only
The red
32.
the the red pill doesn't recruit. It
No.
doesn't need to. Neither does MGTOW. MGTOW or red pill incels, we don't recruit.
Yeah. It's like saying homeless shelters recruit. Like, people go there because they're in crisis. They don't have to recruit. They don't have to go looking for people. People go there because they need a place. And the manosphere in general is like that. We don't have to go recruiting people. People come here. People come into the movement because of things that have happened to them, or things
And
that have happened to their loved ones.
and the red pill is not something you take orally either.
No.
I can't pronounce the word.
It usually comes in the form of a giant suppository that you weren't looking for.
That's the word I'm trying to pronounce.
You can freebase it if you're brave enough.
No.
Smoke it up into you in a fucking crack pipe if absolutely necessary.
Yeah. Yeah, but most men, when they get red pilled, it goes in the other end. And once they
just like Crowder.
Yeah. Once they've had that, then their eyes start to open to the entire shebang. All of the shenanosphere. And I should say she-nanosphere, because it is almost always revolving around women and women's interests.
You can coin that.
There you go. The she-nanosphere.
You can trademark it.
I should. And it's fitting, right? Because shenanigans, but also nano being small, and these women are, if nothing else, nano-brained. Blake himself, who was only 32, drifted toward the brutal comforts. That's called an oxymoron. Brutal comforts offered by the manosphere a few years ago after the breakup of a 5-year relationship that he had expected to end in marriage and a family. Oh man, he was lucky. Dodged a bullet there. It didn't happen after the family had been created. It happened before the family had been created. That's good. At one point in the program, he scrolls back through the material he was looking at and reposting to his followers at the time, and is mortified by what he finds. Of course. This happens occasionally to guys who are I don't know, they go through an experience, they get red pilled, and then they get together with a woman, and she disapproves of their knowledge. That, some women are absolute bitches, absolutely evil, just like some men are absolute dicks. They're absolute assholes. And when women are like that, they get away with it. When men are subjected to behavior from women who are like that, they don't have the same recourse that women have when we're subjected to the behavior of men who are like that. We have all kinds of recourse. Um, but men get treated like it's their fault, right? So a guy gets into a relationship, and this time he doesn't want to have that end. Um, then he disavows everything he ever learned the last time that a woman shafted him. Mm. He pretends the shenanigans have become invisible again. It's almost like a different person, he says. I was hurting and this content gave it a voice. Oh, you mean somebody did something bad to you and that person was a woman and you talked about it? Gee, how terrible. His journey into the manosphere was relatively brief, and then he came to his senses. Do you see how she's phrasing that? How dare you notice? How dare you see that the femperor has no compassion?
The noticing will continue till morale improves.
Yes, the noticing will continue. But yeah, you're not allowed to notice. It's the original sin is noticing. For the young men he interviews, however, the journey started earlier and goes further. Oop, did somebody want to speak?
Yay!
Oh,
Hello.
that's fun. It's everywhere that the weather's been bad, it's been like that. My nose is off the charts right now, and there's not even a good reason for it. Yeah, that's good. So here we're going to get to hear about these men. Right, 16-year-old Sam. So he's interviewed this underage kid. Has been involved with the manosphere since he was 13. He is a paying subscriber to one influencer in particular. He changed my life. He taught me how to grow up. Whose online success he hopes to emulate when he has learned enough. I bet that's Tate. His own first TikTok video 2 years ago resulted in a huge amount of bullying at school. Since then, he has taken further refuge online. I don't have any friends in real life anymore, he says. Uh, so the first thing that we do, we don't tell what led Sam to the manosphere. Apparently, you can't point out what was Sam experiencing that caused him to go looking for role models on the internet. What was Sam going through that what he saw resonated with him? You can't have any compassion for Sam. You just hear that an influencer changed his life and taught him how to grow up. Now, if a girl said that about any number of female influencers who are feminist online, even if that influencer is the most toxic, man-hating pig on the internet. And it's a toss-up between several prominent feminists who that might be. Julie Bindel holds a pretty solid place, at least in the top 3 there, though, right? Even if a girl said that about Julie Bindel, if we framed it as something bad, we would be considered misogynistic. But it's not misandry. It's not hateful toward men to suggest, like, say, maybe this kid was listening to Paul Elam. Maybe I don't think a kid listening to Paul Elam would make TikTok videos that would get him bullied, but let's say he was listening to Paul Elam, who is by far not any level of toxicity like Julie Bindel, but feminists think he is, right? They hate his guts because he doesn't pull any punches. He'll call bullshit where bullshit needs to be called. But the minute that you see somebody emulating him, it's somehow toxic. It's somehow bad. And the fact that this kid says he doesn't have any friends in real life anymore, right after the COVID crisis, because when this documentary was made, we were shortly out of the lockdowns when people couldn't go places and hang out with each other.
Yeah,
it's kind of silly to say that it eliminated his ability to have friends in real life. That the manosphere did that, and not the lockdowns.
Yeah, that sentence kind of struck a chord with me because I'm at that point where, well, none of the friends I had, like, offline back in the day, I have anymore. But that's largely because I drifted away from them, and it's largely because in many of those cases, in my early 30s, I discovered some of the talking points that we're discussing, and when attempting to communicate them to some of my friends, they would do that thing we talked about at the top of the show, where they were like, "You just need more magic vagina juice in your. You're only saying these things because you haven't had enough pussy," and they would say this to one of their best friends, like it was like it was some kind of logical and compassionate thing to say. And yeah, this is what a lot of us discover when we finally get around to criticizing feminism. We realize how many of our friends, even our friends we've had for a long time, have had this fucking evil buried in their soul for this whole time. Where if you criticize this ideology of theirs, they will just personally attack you. They will just make up some kind of backstory for you, rather than actually address the broad point being addressed. Go on, Richard.
I've had the who hurt you.
The who hurt you thing, yeah.
And you must hate your mother. That's not the point. I do dislike my mom, but that's not the point though. It's just that you know what I'm trying to say is that I've had that happen to me in the past. Like, who hurt you? You must not like your mother. You must hate a woman in your family and stuff like that.
Yeah, and this it will, even if you don't get into these things, once you reach your 40s, most people, regardless of their political leanings or endeavors, will find that as you approach later life, you will lose most. The friends you had in high school are all gone now, right? With very few exceptions. Most of us.
I have no friends, so I got one friend, and that's hanging on by a thread.
Yeah.
Most of us, almost all of us, have drifted apart from the friends we had in high school and the friends we had in university, and then the few friends that you have left over in your 20s, you eventually drift apart from in your 30s, and by the time you're in your 40s, you don't have much of that left. Yeah. But here I am. The 3 people I'm talking to in this stream, I have met in real life many times over. I have a whole network of friends who, yes, I mainly talk to online, but I've also interacted with in real life. And, maybe that doesn't count as much, but it does. And this is what happens when society breaks down and we try to rebuild it from the scattered ashes. And that's very much what we're doing here. Richard lives in London, Hannah lives in Ohio, Lauren lives in Connecticut, but we're bringing these scattered scattered ashes back into what hopefully will be the phoenix rising from the flames of the fucking society that feminism has destroyed.
Also, the women are trying to invade men's sheds again. They're making a big push for it now.
Oh, geez, that's fun. But I mean, that's gonna happen. And when it comes down to it, like this person is talking about a 16-year-old, right? And I just looking back I grew up in the 1970s and 1980s. Right? My best friends in elementary school were not the same as my best friends in high school because scheduling changes kept us apart. Right? I had one friend that we maintained a friendship over distance until just a few years before the end of her life, and I had moved and I pretty much was isolated by work, and she also was isolated by work, and we lost touch. And I went looking for her back in my hometown again, only to find out that she had committed suicide because of a chronic pain condition and changes in policy that Obama created around treatment of that chronic pain condition that essentially put her in a situation of perpetual pain. And so that was the end of that. I mean, that's how that friendship ended. Um, but I've had most of my friendships changed over time. I have friends when I was in elementary school that I grew out of because they maintained a level of childish behavior that I grew out of, and I stopped hanging out with them. Um, there was a small town controversy with the police department that happened in my community that resulted in about a third of the department losing their jobs. And the guy who developed and printed the mugshots for the police department was one of them that lost his job. And for about a month while they were finding someone else to do it, they had me developing and printing the mugshots. And the girl that I quit hanging out with because I uh, developed better behaviors and she didn't, um, was in one of the rolls of film that I developed, her mugshot. So, like, we went very different paths, right? And then, same thing when I was in high school. There were people that I was friends with that I quit hanging out with because we didn't have anything in common. Not anything to do with gender issues, politics, nothing. Just, uh, I wasn't a party animal. My idea of a party is getting a bunch of people together, watch a movie, and eat popcorn. And well, I can't eat popcorn anymore, but snacks and we do the Mystery Science Theater 2000 version of it before before it was called 3000, where we all crack jokes about the movie and make fun of the dialogue. That's it. I don't even drink anymore. Um, but so that's the things that have affected my changes in friendships, and that started as early as junior high and continued through high school, continued through college. And that's normal for people. So you probably can look back in your life, and there were people that you enjoyed hanging out with when you were little, or when you were a young teenager, and that when you were an older teen, by the time you were an older teen, your pathways were different enough that you weren't going to be spending time together because you didn't have a basis. You didn't have a basis for connection to spend time with each other. It has absolutely nothing to do with your politics. When you get politics into it, usually politics are built around themes of morality and interests, like things that you consider important to yourself, or things that you consider to be civil rights, stuff like that. And if you have a difference of opinion on those things, you probably have a difference in personal ethics and whether you're an individualist or a collectivist and things like that has nothing to do with gender issues. Those are things that are outside of or bigger than the issues that she's trying to fit them into, and that this documentary in quotes was trying to fit them into. People can't hear. Brian, people can't hear Lauren.
I can hear you. What?
Yeah, we can hear, but both the special chat and the um, horizontal YouTube are saying that they're silent. Oh, no, we also got Rumble saying it too. Crud. I wonder what's going on there. Yeah. Okay, they're saying we're back, but they might be responding to my voice.
All
So
right,
if
yeah.
you can hear
So
Lauren, say we can hear Lauren. But in the meantime, Lauren, talk.
It's going to take 15 seconds for us to
Yeah.
know, for the audience to get.
okay,
All right. Good.
I'm good now.
Can the audience hear her?
So you were pointing out that the word friendship is overused, and that people you call your friend can easily still stab you in the back. You can still be, your friendships can end, and so on. You can get betrayed and mistreated, and then people treat acquaintances as friends when they're really
Correct.
not close.
Correct. I mean, I have a friend, and I will say she is my best friend. I've known her since I was 8 years old, and we haven't spoken in over a decade, but every time we pick up the phone and speak to each other, it's like that time just never happened. Like, right, like we're just right back on
Yeah.
the same page. And that's a true friendship. Someone who knows you, someone who understands you, someone who, even if they don't understand you, is willing to sit there and accept everything that you're going through, or accept the things that you say, right? um we seen throughout the past 10 years, easily the past 10 years, how politics can make even your own family members disown you, right?
Yeah.
So it's just, where do you put your energy into? Do you put your energy into someone you call a friend that may be your friend today, but if you say the wrong thing tomorrow, they're not going to be your friend? Well, that was never a friend.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Hence the
that is
phrase.
true.
Hence the phrase. You know who your friends are when. ...
Mm, mm-hmm.
Yeah. I have some friends locally that we've seen each other through divorce, through um, people committing crimes against us, through the 7 years in hell story. The wife in that story, the good wife in that story, Bridget, has been my friend since university, and she and I have seen each other through a lot. We have another close friend that we've seen each other through a lot. The job I'm doing now was the way that the third friend, the other friend, um, rescued me from a job environment that really was not good for me, really sucked. And similarly, when she was going through her divorce, we went across the state to be there for her, and to be, if were needed to testify, we would have been there to testify. But even if not, we were there. And similarly, when the 7 years in hell story happened, the three of us banded together to make sure we had organized a watch to ensure that her husband was not unguarded from having a time where he couldn't account for his whereabouts with witnesses. And that was one of those, like Lauren said, who your friends are. Your friends will drop everything and go halfway across the country to rescue you from a bad situation. If they can, if they can get away from where they are. And that's before I even met, all of that happened before I even met Allison and Karen. And in fact, I wouldn't have met Allison and Karen if it hadn't been for the 7 years in hell case, because that was the breaking point where I started trying to sound the alarm to the public online about the Violence Against Women Act and what it was doing to the court system. That was just an insane level of bullshit in the court system. And when I started seeing it happen over and over again, and I started meeting other people that it was happening to, like, that was enough for me to go into the men's rights movement and become part of the movement. I didn't even know there was a movement before that. Right? I just knew that there were shenanigans, and it was a problem. And writing to politicians by myself wasn't doing enough. But yeah.
And it all happened on Reddit.
Well,
so
that part happened on Reddit. Yeah.
For all the shit you could say about Reddit, it did bring the honey badgers together.
Yeah. Well, that was before Reddit became the HOA of the internet.
It always was. Let's be honest.
No, it wasn't. Back when the men's rights subreddit only had about 3,000 people in it. When Reddit was the front page and then subreddits were a separate thing, there was actually a Reddit, quote unquote, subreddit that eventually just kind of got eliminated. And now there's just all subreddits. I don't know if I'm explaining that correctly, but it was a whole different environment. And around, I want to say 2000, it's been a long time, 2007, 2008. I might be going back a little too far. But somewhere in there, feminists sort of took over the site. And once the Karens took over the site, the non-honey badger Karens took over the site, it really did become the HOA of the internet. And it was really sad. By the way, I can't coin that one. My brother is the one who described it that way to me. But going on, like James, 22-year-old criminology graduate, Shane found comfort in the red pill ideology after a breakup. Red pilling means rejecting social conventions, especially those around treating women with respect. That's her definition of. She doesn't even mention the source of the red pill. And in parentheses, she says, "Master manipulators is a favorite refrain of red pill promulgators." and concentrating on yourself instead, especially your muscle mass and earning potential. So she's explaining a lot about herself here, right? Imagine if you ordered a pizza, right? A super deluxe pizza, like every topping on the menu that has any remote compatibility with the other toppings on the menu is going to be on this pizza. And you get the biggest size, maybe they make a 20-inch pizza at this pizza place, and you get a 20-inch pizza, and you go over to the pizza when it comes in, and you pick a segment, like one of the fattier segments off, a little corner, tear a little corner off of one of the pepperonis on the pizza. And you eat that, and you're like, God, this pizza is really super spicy. I don't like it. All right. Did you taste the pizza? Did you try the pizza? Did you actually evaluate the pizza in that circumstance? Can you describe the crust, the sauce, the other toppings, the cheese, whether or not they're salt? Did they actually do anything fancy or different or unusual? Do you like
Was
the
there any
seasonings?
spirit cooking involved?
Is the pizza even cooked? But you get my point, right? Like, come on. This is red pilling means being able to see through a facade. It comes from the Matrix movies from the 90s. For old farts will remember, but maybe Zoomers don't know this. But the idea is, if you take the red pill versus the blue pill that's being handed to you in a simulation, the red pill is a program that allows you to wake up and actually view reality and stop seeing the illusion that's been presented to you in the simulation. And the blue pill allows you to forget that you learned that you're in a simulation and stop pursuing the ability to wake up and see what the real world actually looks like. And in the manosphere, red pill means two dramatically different things. In the pickup artist, tradcon, the people that call themselves red pillars today, that actually, I don't know if swiped the term red pill is quite right. They co-opted the term red pill in a way after
They kind
it
of
was
rebranded.
co-opted from
They
what?
They rebranded. So
Yeah, they
PUA is
rebranded
rebranded
it.
as red pillars. Yeah. So
Yeah.
PUA is red pill was supposed to do with the men's rights movement at some point, and then the PUA rebranded it as the ilk.
Yeah. When it was initially used in the men's rights movement, your red pill moment was when you realized that we live in a world that was gynocentric, and that a lot of what you had been told the rules was false. And when you start to see what the rules actually are, you've been red pilled. When you recognize that it's not a matter of right and wrong, fair and unfair. It's a matter of valuable and not valuable in society, and that everything that you've been told makes you valuable is to some degree a lie, because our society values women above all else, femininity above all else. You're red pilled. When you learn that the court system is going to treat you unfairly because you're a man, you're red pilled. When you learn that a woman can lie about you, and even after people have seen solid, irrefutable proof that she was lying, they will still treat you as though you got away with something, you're red pilled. And it's not a matter of your muscle mass or any of the other things that she mentioned, right? It's not a attitude toward women. It's a recognition that centering women and prioritizing women in all things as a social attitude is damaging, particularly to men, but it's damaging to everybody.
Yeah.
For the record, I took both pills. I took all of the pills, and the cream floated to the top, and then God appeared and sorted it all out.
Yeah.
I don't think I took the red pill. I don't think I took the red pill. I just sort of all the information that I could. So
There you go.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm just a realist, and so yes, I am red pilled, obviously, but I take objection to this sentence here. If we could go back to it, um, rejecting societal conventions, especially around those treating women with respect. Well, first and foremost, respect is earned. It's not just given. It's not just handed out like Halloween candy, you bitch. This
Yeah.
is something that you have to earn, right? And the other part of my objection to this is that it is supposed to be a societal convention, right? It's just society just knows that you just have to be nice to women. Well, fuck you. I'm sorry. There are plenty of women who have proven that they do not deserve or have not earned respect, and it's more than you would like to think. Right?
Yeah.
So this idea that it's just something that men should do, well, where the hell are you coming from? Who are you speaking for? You're not speaking for me.
I think a lot of times women don't even understand what respect is.
They don't. They absolutely don't. Respect to a woman means do everything or anything that I ask you to do. That's what it means to the average woman. If it goes against my wishes, then you just don't respect me. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. No, that's not how this works, right? It's unbelievable, and to juxtapose that with the remainder of the sentence and concentrating on yourself instead, well, what do you think you're doing when you are demanding respect of everyone around you? You are concentrating on yourself. But when men do it, it's a problem. I'm sorry, I got a problem with that.
Yep. Well, women do not like when men have respect for each other either.
No, nope, nope.
Yeah, demanding respect is like proclaiming yourself to be beautiful. It's,
Right.
that's for other
I
people
am the
to figure out.
table.
Yeah.
Mm. See, I don't know about beautiful, but I will be bootiful, and I spell with two O's, but not the IE. Right. I hate shoes. I actually hate covering my feet with anything more solid than socks, but I still wear work boots to work, like the kind you wear to work outside, because the only thing that I hate more than shoes and stuff like that is getting snow inside my shoes. So so I'm
Yes. Oh
beautiful.
my God. I hate that. I hate that so bad. Anyway, all right.
Yeah. The practical outcome is I will wear I will confine my feet within the most shoey of shoes, the boot.
Chewy.
I get the boot.
I like that word. Chewy. I like
Shoey.
that.
Uh, but yeah, this is the way it is, right? Um,
Sorry.
and if you didn't grow up as an athlete and you didn't have coaches that maybe didn't care what sex you were, if you're female, you probably do think deference, veneration, and respect are all the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, Respect can be fear that's of consequences of treading on someone's uh, earned territory, right? There are guys that I hung out with that wouldn't step on another guy's toes because they knew that other guy could kick the shit out of them. and that's a form of respect. Like, you earned the respect of the it doesn't matter whether you would do it or not, right? The fact that you can, that's enough.
Mhm.
There's the respect that you show other athletes who have worked just as hard as you do, even if you're more experienced, or you're more skilled, or more talented at the particular type of sport. Um, there was a girl on my track team who was a gymnast first, and a track star. And I will say track star because she was very good at what she did, but she was a track star second. And the gymnastics team kind of fell apart in my community, um, because the gymnastics coach did not respect the media, and the media decided not to cover the sport. And they ended up, the fans didn't come, and then the school quit funding the program. But that was all before we were in high school. So we're on the track team together, and like this girl um, was a cross country runner. When we weren't, like, we were on the cross country team together too, and I sucked at cross country. I came in last in every race, and I worked harder just to finish the race, um, where than I think a lot of runners worked to place. And it was partly because my asthma was just that bad. And I think now, I didn't realize it then, but now I know that it was partly because of the Ehlers. There's a combination of back pain and asthma pain that can be kind of debilitating and slow you down quite a bit, right? Um, so when I was in school, and we were runners on a track team, like, she had seen me just absolutely struggle, like, more than you can probably picture in your mind, trying to run cross country, and then become fourth in our league, in the hurdles, the 100-meter hurdles. And when we did our, like, stretches together and everything as a group, um, like, she would seek me out because we were similarly stretchy. And we had a conversation one time because I was like, I expected the great runners to click together. And she's like, "What do you mean? You are a great runner." And I was like, "I come in last all the time." And she's like, "Well, not in the hurdles." And she was like, "But that's not what makes you a great runner." And I had no idea that I had earned a level of respect from her because I was stubborn and didn't give up on my running even when I sucked at it. Um, when you admire something about another person, like, I admired how great she was at she was always in the top, like, top 2 or 3 places. Um, Even when we had, upperclassmen and we were lowerclassmen, right? So I admired that about her, and I admired something else too. She was the only girl I ever met who could pole vault. Girls don't pole vault normally because we just don't develop the upper body strength. And it was hard for her. But it wasn't for her, it wasn't the same as it was for most of the rest of us, because she did, as a gymnast, have that upper body strength. I never saw another girl successfully pole vault until I saw a college match in the 90s, the late 90s, after my son was born. So it might have even been 21st century, when I was a photographer, and there was a girl that was her size and shape, that she looked like, God, I can't think of her name. She's this petite little gymnast that was an Olympic champion when I was in school. She was on the Wheaties boxes and everything. Really famous, and I can't think of her name, but she had that kind of build, right? Um, But in any case, the things I admired about her were that she had achieved a high level of skill, and she had worked hard for it. But it never occurred to me that my level of hard work would deserve any respect, because I hadn't achieved a high level of skill. My peak was fourth in the league, and this girl was a state champion in multiple sports, and she was like, I've never seen anybody stick with a struggle and tear it apart the way that you have. Most people would just give up, and you've improved every year. And though that was kind of my moment of learning to understand that respect is not just deference. It was, you find something that you admire about somebody, and you develop a sense of reverence for that characteristic. And it's something that you can latch onto as a thing to connect with the individual over. And you're not looking down on whatever failure is attached to it. You're looking at it as, what is the good character behind this recognition of good character. And people will respect you if you're reliable. People will respect that good character. And it's harder to explain it than it is to demonstrate it. But sportsmanship sort of explains quite a bit about respect that I think a lot of women don't understand, because they don't have that history that men have of having life or death situations where life ends up being dependent on respecting someone who's trying to kill you. And finding common ground and being able to make peace due to that mutual respect, even if that is attached to some degree of failure, right? Coming in last every race, whatever, not having the same level of wealth, not having the same level of something, but having that tenacity anyway, and being able to make peace, recognizing that you both have life to lose, and you both have family to lose, and you both have reason to want to live, and so respecting each other's motives, you're able to find some ground on which to call a truce. Right? Women haven't had that history, and I think as a result, unless a girl grows up in athletics with really good coaches and really good parents, she never understands respect. This lady that wrote this is no exception. I doubt that she had that kind of upbringing. She goes on, if you don't get too invested in women, you can avoid all the heartbreak and stuff, says Shane. Couldn't that?
True.
Yeah. This indicates that the only thing that men's hearts ever break over is women.
Right. Right.
I've been present and watched a guy's heart break over his car in a way that was
Or his
every bit as devastating as losing a girlfriend.
or his dog.
Or his
Oh,
God,
oh,
no,
oh,
dogs are beyond girlfriends.
Well, yeah.
oh, lost safe on a video game.
Yeah,
Mm,
yeah.
But
Especially back in the
it
day when you couldn't save the game.
yeah.
I do want to point out that it does happen with women more than all of the above.
Yeah,
Like
it
we,
does.
we see we
Yeah.
see a lot of these memes about how if a girl breaks up with a guy, he can be like, oh no, but if his dog dies, he's distraught. But if his girlfriend died, he'd be even more distraught. And this is very often the justification people make for how it's okay that teenage boys get quote unquote seduced by their teachers, and that's not as bad as teenage girls getting seduced by their male teachers. Because I've heard this argument, it's because teenage boys just want sex, whereas teenage girls want romance. But then they get denied that romance because they were just getting used. And boys from the earliest of age want romance just as much as girls do. If boys just wanted sex, they would just shag their fucking sofa. Like,
Yeah.
Boys want, a connection with a human being, just as much as girls do, even from an early age. And yeah, it for all the rhetoric we're throwing up about video games and cars and dogs, no, it really, really fucks up men and boys of all ages when they are denied that connection with the other human beings that they've been evolutionarily designed to love more than themselves. Okay?
True. But that wasn't my point. My point was that you can't avoid all heartache that way. But it is true that boys are as vulnerable as girls. I mean, one of my arguments that I like to make when people spout that bullshit, teenage girls only want ice cream. Like, ice cream is very important when you're a teenage girl. I was a teenage girl. Ice cream was vital to my existence, and I would die without it, right? But if someone showed up at my house and brought me an unsolicited tub of ice cream, like, one of those big round gallon tubs you get at the grocery store for $3.99 or whatever, and said, "Let's just dig in and eat this," and did that regularly, it would have made me sick. And there's a reason for that. Right? It's not nutritionally healthy, shitload of sugar. Right? It does damage to you. And as a teenager, if I had not been ready to make that decision to choose how much I was going to eat and what I was going to eat, clearly the adult would have been doing me harm, even if they thought they were fulfilling my every desire. And that's just ice cream, right? There's nothing psychologically damaging about ice cream. There's no your body chemistry doesn't change in a way that bonds you with that particular tub because you ate the ice cream out of it. But when you have sex with someone, your brain chemistry changes in a way that creates a bond with that person. And when that bond is ripped apart one way or another, you go through a grieving process. And if you never get out of the denial stage, it's still part of the process. And there is still psychological damage. It's one of the reasons why it never should have been encouraged that teenagers should be having sexual relationships even with each other. Doesn't matter if the partner is young or old. That bond still happens and that pain still happens, and it's still a bad idea. It's a profoundly bad idea. It's why teenagers did used to be chaperoned when they went on dates. Women changed that, and it was a bad idea. It was a profoundly bad idea to put two sex-crazed teenagers alone in a car together every fucking weekend for half their high school years.
So Islam was what about women?
Yeah, to a degree, yeah. It's really dumb for people to allow their teenagers to be having sex. They're not ready to handle that. And honestly, um, sleeping around is a dumb idea too. It's not. The best you can say about it is that adults are a little bit better equipped to handle the damage they're doing to themselves when they screw around with somebody and then break up than young people are.
You would think that.
You know,
You would
but
think
it's
that, but going by recent events, not so much.
yeah. Well, it's kind of like being able to say that adults are better able to moderate their response to the pain from hitting their thumb with a hammer than a teenager might be or an elementary school kid. It's still hitting your thumb with a hammer. You're still hurting yourself. That's not necessarily a good ad, a good sales point for the behavior. But yeah. So yeah, you don't have the heartbreak of being dumped uh, as often if you don't get dumped, but there's heartbreak with just being alone too. And this is something you said to me before, Richard, about incels not just wanting to get laid but wanting relationships, right? Still there, Richard?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what most people don't. I'm still here.
Okay.
That's what most people don't understand about inceldom. So yeah.
That they want relationships,
Hello.
not just getting laid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But women say you can't. Women say you can't have both because women see that as separate for some reason. So women will say you either want a relationship or you want sex. You can't have both.
And see, this is another problem because what premarital sex, extramarital sex, and promiscuity have done to women is it has caused them to be both cynical and, I would say, jaded about sex. They've lost their sense of intimacy, and they've lost the use of sex as a tool of intimacy in a relationship. And so they use sex to secure loyalty, and then they treat it like work afterwards that they have to do if their partner wants to be intimate. And it's stupid because you lose out on the closeness with your partner that you have from the oxytocin release. And I can't think of the name of the other hormone. There's another hormone, another brain chemical that gets released specifically as a result of sex that is essentially the bonding chemical. That between those two, you're waking up parts of your brain when you're just with that one person that don't activate around any other people. And it's important to have that. And when women stop having sex because they're in a relationship and they don't think that they need to maintain it, they're killing the relationship and destroying their closeness. It's precursor for divorce. They don't even realize that the reason that they've become distant from their partner isn't their partner, it's themselves. But this writer goes on to say, couldn't that be quite unfulfilling, wonders Blake, whose shared sex and closeness in age and experience to his subjects, as well as his evident sanguinity and compassion. These are things that apparently she disapproves, by the way. How dare he have compassion? It elicits strikingly guileless and relatively elaborate answers from all of them. So, in other words, he disarmed them by being like them and then betrayed them. What were you saying, Richard?
I thought they wanted passion from men, or not. I thought women wanted passion from men, or it's not that anything to do.
Yeah, it actually feels like, and I think I said this before the show to somebody. Women really want men to like them and care about them and have compassion for them and be invested in women's welfare. but they don't want to have to do any of those things for men. They don't want to like men, have to like men. They don't want to have to care about men. They don't want to have compassion for men, and they don't want to be invested in men's welfare. They don't want to have to do any of that in order for men to reciprocate. Shane says he is struggling with the fact that he has feelings for his new girlfriend that are hard to reconcile with a recommendation to play the field because nice guys get nowhere. Well, that's not a... I wonder where he's getting that recommendation. Because it's not something that
Tate.
the men's rights movement would give him.
It's probably Tate into PUAs.
Yeah.
And roll a tomato.
Yeah, that's quite likely. Like, it's just as dysfunctional to treat loyalty as a flaw as it is to recognize how many women have the flaw of being disloyal. Right? You dish out what you want other people to dish back, and you have to be able to vet women for character. And I think the biggest problem with the pickup artist community is, instead of teaching men to vet women for character and that it's okay to do that, they teach men to expect bad character and to defend themselves against it, while having close relations with bad character. And that's
To be
just going to
fair,
lead to more women with bad character.
A couple of them have started to do that. Only a couple though. So, and they usually get like ostracized from the PUA community for doing it.
Of course. Well, hopefully, as more and more of them actually do get red pilled. I know one guy ended up getting red pilled through sort of an experience with women's reactions to something that he said or did. I can't even remember the whole thing. I know he got a lot of comments from men about their experiences as well. And the more he learned about women's actual behavior in conflict with his advice, he ended up apologizing to his community and saying, maybe I'm going to have to reevaluate the advice I've been giving, because in fact, that doesn't work if women are, gonna be this way. If women don't have standards, they have strategies, and part of their strategy is everything you do is wrong.
Yeah, because the PUA used to laugh at the MGTOW guys, and now the PUA stole the MGTOW guys' talking points.
Yep. And I can still remember the first time I learned about the old rivalry between pickup artistry and MGTOW was in the slap fight in the lady MRAs subreddit that I never really used for anything. That resulted in the honey badgers kind of forming. Actually, me and Karen and Allison got together over it. We did a show actually where we went back and talked about that. I think I even showed some of the posts from that. But the short version is there was a veteran MRA guy that had been through, he was MGTOW after facing 7 false rape allegations. And we knew, these were false. These were not, he wasn't a serial rapist getting away with it like feminists would like to say. These were demonstrably false allegations. But he tried. He put a solid effort in with the women that actually needed to have that Lady MRA's subreddit separate from the men's rights subreddit, for whatever reason they needed to have it. And they asked him a question, and he answered their question. And they had a temper tantrum over his answer. His answer was really simple. He gave them a brief education in the form of a blog post on the various segments, factions, whatever within the manosphere, what they were and how they interrelated. And what he wrote, nothing he wrote was even remotely misogynistic. Like there was nothing that treated women as lesser human beings. There was nothing that treated women as irredeemable people. Nothing bad. Just, how do men manage to live in the current social and political environment, given how different men and women are, and what things that women can get away with that men can't, and so on. And these women kind of jumped down his throat, and one of them asked the question that is sort of, it's hard to trigger me, but that question does it. Don't you respect women? Right? I hate that question. If you have to ask that question, you don't deserve respect. If you're asking that question, you're assuming that all women do deserve respect. That automatically is a reason why you don't deserve respect, in my opinion. But so we ended up getting into the ensuing discussion because they ganged up on this guy and circled around him and took bites until they felt that he had been punished sufficiently for assuming they didn't already know everything. So essentially, they accused him of mansplaining and then used that to accuse him of misogyny. And the whole thing was just an absolute mess. But in any case, during that, one of the things that I learned was that MGTOW really thought pickup artists were stupid for the risks that they were taking. And pickup artists really thought MGTOW were stupid for not having figured out the formula for protecting yourself from false accusations. And then they started seeing some of their leaders face consequences that they thought that they had figured out how to avoid. So now there's a little bit more cynicism among pickup artists than there used to be. But yeah, the idea that a guy should play the field is probably one of the dumbest pieces of advice you can give him, simply because the more he does that, the bigger his chances of running across a woman who is going to falsely accuse him of some type of sexual misconduct or other abuse for any reason, whether it's to avoid her boyfriend finding out that she was with him, or because she just doesn't like him and she wants to hurt him, or to get attention for herself, or for any other reason. Like some women just do it on a whim, in fact. Like they don't really have any other reason. They're bored. And out of boredom, they will put a guy at risk of decades in jail. So that's stupid advice. And out of the entire men's rights movement, like I respect
That's how I got.
everything except the advice to play the field.
That's how I got because she was bored.
She was bored. Jeez. And you're disposable to her.
Basically.
Yep. There are women, many women who treat
she was bored, and she called the police. She called the police on me, and the police came to arrest me. And then all the people that I knew at the time kind of gathered around me. I think I told the story before.
Yeah, was that
they
was
gathered
that
around me,
part, right?
And they Yeah, and they gathered around me, and they said I didn't do the stuff that she said. Oh, luckily they didn't put the handcuffs on me. I was in the position of being cuffed, but they let me go in the end.
That's good. That's good. It's if you hadn't had witnesses and it had just been your word against hers, you being in the UK, that would have been the end of it. Because there has been a push for so long that if there's no evidence, to just presume the guy guilty and treat him that way, like you'd have been in jail. And that's happened so many
And that's why
times.
I don't. Yeah.
Go ahead.
That's why I don't really like women that much, and I keep my distance as much as possible. But in my the place that I go to is very impossible because it's like woman centric.
Yeah.
It's like women led. So yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of
Because
at that end of healthcare. It is very
yeah.
Because
the show Adolescence almost got me in trouble. Because the show Adolescence got me in trouble because I said some stats that they didn't like.
Maybe the fact that the film was a false representation of the case that it claimed to be based on.
That and no, he said it was the creator said it was an inspiration, not a factual case on the case that it was based on. It's just like one of the inspirations. And I said about the single mothers more likely to raise incels than not.
Yeah.
I didn't like that.
I can see that. Again, you're not promoting the narrative, so and it actually it kind of demonstrates that the narrative is full of shit. So of course they're not gonna like that. So let's see. We have 2 more paragraphs here. Jake 27 has been a follower of the red pill lifestyle since the pandemic. So this is when they've tried to treat it like because guys were locked in, they suddenly came across this content and got roped into it and never would have before. When in fact, the greater likelihood is they ran across this content because it resonated with something that had happened in their lives. Right? You learn about false allegations online because you're writing or talking about something online that is related to false allegations. And then you run into links and such before you get to somebody's blog about it or articles about it on men's rights sites. Men, he says, need to stop feeling sorry for themselves. No one's coming to save them, which I think the men's rights movement have been saying that for 100 years. No one's coming to save men. Well, there's a reason for that. Right? The people who come to save people are men. And unfortunately, gynocentrism isn't just something that women do. About half or more of the male population is severely gynocentric. And they're not coming to save other men because men are not women.
Yeah, people are only coming to save women, and the only way we can save men is by stop coming to save women.
Yeah. He dreams of becoming an online guru and is paying 650. Is that the pound symbol or the euro symbol? That's the pound symbol,
That's
isn't
pounds,
it?
yeah.
Okay. 650 pounds a month to learn how to go about it. All right. The first lesson of becoming an online guru is do not pay someone else to teach you to be an online guru. Just saying. And I'll give you that for free.
Like, no one should become an online guru. Is there anyone who can call themselves a guru without dying from pretentious cringe?
I know. Oh my gosh. In the meantime, he is on a semen retention journey. If you can control your lust and your sex drive, he explains, you can control your mind. Right? This they're going to make fun of. Back in the day, when our grandparents or great grandparents, depending on which generation we're talking about here on the show, because I think we have a mix of Gen Xers and millennials here. But yeah, back when our grandparents and great grandparents were of dating age, right? That was just called normal. Controlling your lust and your sex drive was normal behavior that most people did. You wait for marriage so that you don't bring a child into a poverty situation that you then have to mitigate by working extra hard to ensure that your child doesn't starve to death. Especially like the grandparents of Gen X, and the great grandparents of Gen X. You couldn't go to the welfare office when they were teenagers because there wasn't one. Right, in the US. I don't know what they would do in the UK, but in the US, if a girl
They just take them
underage
down
got
to the job
pregnant,
centre.
yeah, if a girl got pregnant out of wedlock in say the 1920s or the 1930s, if there wasn't a back alley abortion that happened, her family would send her to, it was essentially a shelter for girls who had conceived out of wedlock, where they would stay there while they were pregnant. Their child would be adopted by a couple that couldn't have a kid, or they just wanted to adopt a baby, and then they would go home without their child. Like, that was the norm. You didn't see a whole lot of girls raising children without a father that had gotten pregnant before they got married. It was not a common behavior. Maybe in, less urban and less wealthy areas, there might have been more of that. But that was how that was handled. And so you if you didn't want to face that, if you didn't want to go through that, then you exercised self-control. Right? And in the early part of the 20th century, they thought that masturbation damaged your life force, that you were eliminating part of your actual existence. They thought that you were wasting life energy, and it would make you. There's even ads, about how bad masturbation is for your health, because it would cause you to be melancholy, depressed, lethargic, exhausted, right?
And then they started hawking all of these sleeping pills. Like,
Right.
there's no need for sleeping pills, gentlemen. Have a wank. It's safer and effective, and more effective than any sleeping pill.
Yeah, your brain's used to the chemicals that happen when you have a wank, not when you take a pill. Especially, do not take ZQuil. That shit is not good for you and will make you have fucked up dreams. And don't take Benadryl to go to sleep either. Right? Those are not healthy things to do. That'll dry you out like nobody's business. And also, if you take too much of it, that fucks up your dreams even worse. And it's not fun. But yeah, this belief that the pickup artists or the red pillars, the so-called red pillars, are promoting here, is the same one that in the early 20th century led to the philosophies behind Harvey Kellogg promoting circumcision as a way of controlling that behavior, that your child would be less likely to masturbate if you if you just cut off part of his dick. Like that's essentially the way that he didn't word it that way. He had a solution for female masturbation as well. This, I think it's called carbonic acid, and it's not damaging, but it is painful and like, oh, it is damaging. And to be put on the clitoris to keep the girl from masturbating. That didn't catch on, but for some reason circumcision did. Maybe because again, women are kind of in control of what is considered okay and appropriate, and they took our society down the route of treating women's sexuality as sacred and beautiful and men's sexuality as dirty and ugly. So there you go. But yeah, this community teaches that when you masturbate, you're releasing your masculine energy, your testosterone, and so apparently they don't do that, but they also don't date. A combination of confusion, contradiction, and loneliness. When Sam finally meets some of his online friends in the flesh, his joy is heartbreaking. This is really pathetic, writing this. Suffuses every interaction James has with these young men. God. It is clear that none of them are evil or anything close to it, but they are adrift in a world that is changing in ways it is easy for them to believe are not for the better and vulnerable to predators. So notice she can't come out and admit that there are things happening in real life to these young men that are demonstrating to them that the world is changing in ways that for them is not for the better. Like they're losing freedom. Their rights are not being respected. They're being condemned for having self-interest of any kind. In her mind, they're vulnerable to predators only because they've noticed that stuff and they shouldn't have noticed. Not because there's no support system for them, not because maybe the lack of compassion for them that they're experiencing, makes them go looking for it where they can find it. They may not be being groomed. That's really awkward. Being groomed by more powerful men for sexual reasons, but there are plenty of other types of exploitation, many of which make them even more of a potential threat. They're victims of being scary because their humanity is bad. A threat to others' happiness and safety. Yeah, because if Blake doesn't masturbate, it does damage to her every single time. Men of the Manosphere is a thoughtful, tender, terrifying hour. It's terrifying, guys. It's terrifying that you might try to navigate the social environment in which you live and find ways to be healthy and people to be friends with who care about you more than women do.
I look forward to the day when the Guardian tries to scare people about my content, because it'll send people to it, just like this has sent people to what the fuck is Men of the Manosphere, whatever it is. This was a fantastic advert for whatever the fuck Men of the Manosphere is. It's
a documentary, I think, on Andrew Tate fans.
Yeah, like whenever the Guardian does a hit piece on something, it's a fantastic advert for whatever the fuck that thing is, because it's the Guardian, and it's an abyss of paradoxical propaganda that only drives people into the arms of whatever the fuck they're trying to drive people away from. Thank you, Guardian. Please come for me. I'm right here.
There we go. They won't though, because they don't want people to look at your content, right? They want people to look at Andrew Tate. This is the thing I think people don't understand, right? We joke, feminists could have listened to all these other men, but when they didn't, they get Andrew Tate. I have no sympathy for their bitching, right? You and I know, we all know, everybody in the audience knows. I'm sure every person that is hearing my voice right now knows that the reason that feminists make a big deal about Andrew Tate is because Andrew Tate is who they want you to pay attention to when the idea of men's issues in any aspect or area of men's issues comes up, right? They don't want you to think about the men who are talking about male psychology in a way that treats the subject as a human subject, and in which men can have flaws and flawed ways of thinking that they need to grow out of, but also men can at the same time harbor very legitimate and uh, rightfully caused reactions, not rightfully caused, but rational responses basically to irrational and in illogical circumstances that they're experiencing. And as a result, that you can't just treat men as being wrong about the situation when they're depressed or suicidal, angry, suffering in any way, and they act out against other people or against themselves in a public way. You have to actually address the underlying causes, that they've been stepped on, that they've been kicked when they're down, that they've been cheated on, lied to, robbed, falsely accused, had their children taken away from them, had most of their income taken by an ex-wife. And that's the reason for their perfectly legitimate emotional response. And even if they have misconceptions that go along with that, I have to tough this out because I'm a man. I can't ask for help because I'm a man. That's not the root of the problem. That's just the rubble in between you and your ability to help him. And they have to be able to recognize both. Feminists don't want you to recognize that it is legitimate for a man to become angry when somebody lies about him, that it's not irrational and it's not toxic and it's not misogynistic just because the liar is a woman. And unfortunately, if people recognize that, feminism loses power. So they don't want you to pay attention to Dr. Warren Farrell, Tommy Sotomayor. They don't want you to pay attention to Paul Elam, right? Who had the audacity, the screaming audacity, to say that it is just as violent and just as bad, just as harmful and hurtful and wrong, morally wrong, when women abuse their male partners as it is when men abuse their female partners. Like, how dare that man say that? Women are more important, right? And so they point the finger at Andrew Tate. They want you to see, when you think about the men's rights movement, they want you to think of that guy. Because if you think of the people who are making rational arguments, who are talking about men as human beings with experiences that have impact on them, that affect their health, that affect their welfare, that might violate their human rights, and about men's reactions to those as legitimate, rational responses to irrational circumstances, then you might have to acknowledge that not everything women do is good, and not everything feminists are demanding is right. And some of the law and policy that they've fought for that funds feminist organizations needs to be repealed. and replaced with something that is more recognizing of both sexes, more respect for both sexes' human rights, or just eliminate it altogether because it's an overstep.
And you'd think, in light of recent events, they would point to Jeffrey Epstein, but they're not. They're pointing directly to Elon Musk and fucking Vladimir Putin.
If they point to Jeffrey Epstein, then it'll lead back to their own leaders.
Indeed.
Right? If they point to Elon Musk and Vladimir Putin, it just gets people emotionally upset. And see, that's the other thing. The emotional reaction people have to Andrew Tate, feminists can control that, right? Because I know people think he's articulate, but in order to defend himself, he says precisely 1% of what he needs to say and 99% of what he shouldn't say. Whereas, in order to get the point across with regard to the legal issues that men face, guys like Paul Elam say 1,000% of what will change your mind. 1,000% of what makes it impossible to ignore the wrongdoing. And guys like Dr. Warren Farrell point out things about boys' disadvantages in society and in particular education that you just can't ignore. When you point these things out, women, mothers who are raising sons have no alternative but to agree. This is a problem and we have to do something about it. It's not okay to leave one sex behind in the education system. And it doesn't make it better if that sex is boys instead of girls. It needs to happen to nobody. So, they don't want attention on those guys. They want you to notice only the guy that they can paint as the clown of the manosphere. Even though sometimes he's right too. It's just easy for them to make him look ridiculous or threatening, especially after they accused him of a bunch of crimes. Like that's a big one. They feel comfortable waving him in front of everybody because they know that people will see the accusations and they won't see the outcome, which is exactly what I expected, that none of those crimes was proved, right? And yeah, Mr. 303 has pointed out this is nothing new. Roosh was the common target before Tate.
Well, Paul Elam was at one point because that was the most extreme target they had.
But even when Paul Elam was more of a target than he is now, there was a level of hate targeting Roosh V. I don't think anybody ever came up to Paul Elam and poured a bottle of urine on his head.
Well, the Guardian never even talked about Paul Elam.
Right. They never even talked about
Warren Farrell. Yeah, they just didn't bother talking about it. It's only once they found a cartoon character like Andrew Tate that that they started going full throttle on it.
When I went to
Go ahead, Richard.
When I went to Cambridge, people threw milkshake at Mike Buchanan.
Yep, that is true.
And Elizabeth.
Yeah, they did. They did milkshake Mike Buchanan. I remember that. Because I remember the first thing I said about that was there could be anything in that milkshake. People treat it like it's a big joke, right? But there could be anything in it. It could have been very dangerous. And maybe a couple of months later, Andy Ngo, when he was at an Antifa event,
it was like it had a cement.
It had a cement mix in it. Yeah. And not only did they do physical damage from the weight of the milkshake, but it wasn't solidified, and cement mix is caustic. It isn't just there's a chemical reaction taking place. So he also had burns, like he had severe injuries. So for people to act like, Mike Buchanan shouldn't have gotten upset when people approached him with a cup full of an unknown substance and threw it at him, clearly, he had just as much reason as anybody else being attacked with an unknown substance. Besides the fact that was done, for years there's been a practice of people doing that with acid when they're upset at something somebody has done or said. Acid attacks are particularly pervasive and dangerous. You don't see it coming, and there's nothing afterwards that you can do. Like, you can reduce the amount of damage by getting the acid off of you if you have a water bottle or something, but or something basically to dilute and remove it. But there's no fixing the damage. There's no coming back from that. But yeah, Roosh V had well, he's been banned from certain countries. I don't think there's any place Paul Elam's not allowed to go. I don't think he's on a ban list for any countries. And then, like I said, he had women come up to him and dump urine on his head because of who he was. So he was attacked with a bodily fluid, which is a biohazard. You never know, did this person that produced this urine have one of the types of diseases that are spread through contact with bodily fluids, because that's a distinct possibility. But in any case, yeah, they absolutely hate guys who break the female hold on sex as a commodity, which sex didn't exist as a commodity, so to speak, until the sexual revolution, outside of prostitution. But now, women who can consider themselves respectable because they're giving it away for free instead of charging for it can exploit sex as a commodity just as much as a prostitute does, without any of the social repercussions that a prostitute faces for it. And when a guy threatens their ability to use that to manipulate men and exploit them for money and gibs, he becomes public enemy number one. That's why they hate pickup artists. That's why they hate Tate, and that's why they want everybody to pay attention to him and nobody to pay attention to us. And that is why we will probably never be the target of a Guardian hit piece. But with that, I will thank everybody. Wait, we got one super chow that I missed. So Xeranx at 8:08 p.m. gave us $5 and said, kind of forces a reevaluation of the mouse utopia, right? I remember thinking the beautiful ones decided to be that way, and now it's looking with figures like clavicula, clavicular. Sorry, I want to call him Banicula, so I always want to say clavicula. That they're merely a response and not self-determined.
He's more of a psyop.
Yeah,
obvious psyop. Obvious Mossad psyop, but I won't get into it.
So, but in the meantime, yeah, we definitely need to be done for the night. So I will call it. Thanks everybody for listening.
Can I come back? Can I come back next week?
Absolutely. And here's the rest of that. So I have this article. Let me see if I can. How did I do this before? I'm looking at where in the menu should be looking. Not a file. There we go. That's the part that's lit up. So will it let me switch my tab? Share from new tab. That's not what I wanted to do. I don't know what I'm doing, guys. I'm an incompetent woman. All right, let me
It's
see if I
okay.
can fix this now. There we go. All right, there it is, the incel trap. So you can see it, and I can share it. This is the article that we are going to start looking at next week. And the reason I want to do this, initially I was just going to take a couple of things and talk about it, and then I kind of skimmed the whole thing. It's not short, but we have to talk about this. This isn't a new article either. This is last September. It's newer than the other ones. But I want you to remember when we looked at the um, UN Women's stuff about the manosphere, when we were looking at that, and when we were looking at the various different organizations that are responding as, this is what the manosphere is, this is what the men's rights movement is all about, this is what, so and so, everything that's being written right now, it's incel, incel, incel. And there's a reason for that. And it's not because incels are bad. It's because
Sorry.
bad incel. It's because incels are a commodity, and they are afraid they are losing them because they're talking to each other.
And our talking points are reaching to the next. And our talking points are reaching to the next generation.
Yes, they are.
My younger cousin uses the word slang, and I said, "Where'd you hear that from?" And I laughed to myself because I've been using that word for a long time.
Yep.
And he used a slang word, so I'm not sure if I'm proud of him or I want to steer him away.
Well, there are some things that
the problem with incels is they're just potential MGTOWs.
Yeah.
You'll notice feminists never talk about MGTOWs because they don't want the incels to become MGTOWs, because then they will lose their product. Not
since that Henry Cavill a few years ago came out as a MGTOW sort of, but now he's married and got a kid. So because he's worried about the Me Too stuff, and he almost got cancelled for it.
You can get married and still be a MGTOW. I've been in a long-term relationship for 7 years, and I'm still a MGTOW, and I will die on that hill.
The recognition that the vast overwhelming majority of women do not have any moral compunctions about trashing a man completely doesn't preclude recognizing that occasionally you run into a woman whose life experiences taught her some accountability. Right? It just means that you know that they're few and far between.
And most women are amoral anyway. So
it's true, and it's unfortunate because they're raised to feel like they can do no wrong. They're perfect just the way they are, which means they have no need for personal growth, right? And of course, the train wreck that leads to damages everything it touches, and in the process destroys itself. But it's again
most females in my family are like that, so I don't have any contact with them.
Yeah, and it's a horrible situation. And again, like, men end up being the primary victims of this, and that they didn't do anything to deserve what happens to them as a result of it, and they don't have any recourse against it, and it can be completely life-wrecking. But it's not necessarily good for the women either. They lose the ability to progress. They lose the ability to meet their potential. So there's not... People talk about it as you're misogynist for noticing this, right? But if you actually care about women, you shouldn't want this to happen to them. It's not misogynistic to want women to have better character that leads to better outcomes for women, just because
Yeah.
it would also be eliminating terrible outcomes for men.
Because I almost got banned from 2 Discord servers because of it. This one and another one I was on, and they kicked me out because I was insult posting too much.
It's people don't like to hear doom and gloom all the time, but you know, sometimes there has to be a town crier, like that guy on the bicycle, in Hysteria, running around telling everybody you're doomed. If anybody remembers that movie, I think I've got that one right. That was Hysteria. But it's the one with the zombies that they don't necessarily attack people. They just run around asking, "What's the difference?" Anyway, thanks everybody for listening.
Long sausage tonight, ladies and
I
gentlemen.
think
I hope you
I
appreciate
mentioned
the length of the sausage.
Yeah, I mentioned that I have a super chow, but I didn't actually. Yeah, I did read it. Okay. In terms of the mouse utopia, the one difference between humans and mice that makes it difficult for the mouse utopia experiment to fully predict what happens to humans in a situation where we have no struggle is we have creativity, we build things, we change our environment to suit our needs on a level that mice can't because they don't have intelligence. And we have a degree of thinking about like meta thinking about ourselves as a species and as human beings and meaning of life and all that stuff. And then beyond that, the next meta level is that we think about thinking and awareness and what it means. And because of that, we have an opportunity to save ourselves where mice didn't. So that's what we're doing here. If you want to be a part of it, like I said at the beginning, go to feedthebadger.com, which, as I said before, it's the most stable way to help us out, but it's also a way to join our community and become a badger. You can join us in our Discord, discuss with other badgers what we are doing and how we're trying to change the way people think. And you can also be part of our after shows. Different after shows have different subscriptions, and the one that we're going to now, we're going to be looking at. We're going into something lighthearted because the stuff that we talk about is often very heavy. So we're reading a Bored Panda article right now, which it's not really an article, it's a listicle. 50 feminist posts that call out the patriarchy with zero mercy. And so far, there has been neither very much calling out nor very much patriarchy, just a bunch of nonsense and a bunch of stuff for us to make fun of. So that's kind of what we do in our after shows sometimes. Other times we have very deep discussions. But like I said, if you want to be part of that, feedthebadger.com. And if you want to keep up with our content, honeybadgerbrigade.com. Thanks everybody for joining me for this subject matter. And thanks to Brian, especially for making sure that we're able to do this. And I don't have to try to keep up with the technology in between 36-hour work shifts in the snow. Good night, all.
Machines.
Men's right activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.